recording. Okay, it's recording.
We're ready to go.
Good morning, everyone. Today is February the 11th, 2021. The Furnishing Construction Board will come to order. I will ask for a roll call by name and organization in which you're representing.
Maben Minority Contractors Association.
I'll start out. My name is Raymond Malone, Chairman of the Board. Thank you, Joseph.
Gabe Perez, Hispanic Contractors, KCMO.
Ed DeSwanier, Heavy Constructors.
Good morning, Gabe.
Kara McGreevy, National Association of Women in Construction.
Good morning, Edward.
Good morning,
Good
Karen.
morning.
Morning.
I have 5 board members that are present. Once again, welcome everyone to the February 11, 2021 Furnishing Construction Board meeting. We'll start by asking for an approval of next month's meeting. If you have your meetings, and if you will review over those and look for any corrections. If there are no corrections, I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I don't remember us approving putting the number of
Yes, Mr.
minority
Mayor.
and women on the goal assessment sheet. I think we agreed to discuss it further, but I see the goal assessments for this month's
neither do I.
job there.
Mr. Chair, this is Philip. I'm not sure if all the other members can hear you, but it appears that you're breaking up on us. You right now seem to be frozen.
I don't think there was ever a motion.
Mr. Chair and members of the
So
board.
you're not hearing me?
It's in and out.
Mr. Chair, it's Philip. You may want to repeat those comments. I didn't hear it clearly, and I'm not sure if the other board members were able to understand. It seemed like you was frozen there for a minute, sir.
Okay. Does it seem like it's freed up now?
Yes.
Apparently not. Okay, just hold for one moment. I'll call in. Yeah, looking for. Bear with me for a moment. You can hear me.
Welcome to the audio conferencing center. Sorry, I can't find a meeting with that number.
Okay, I'm on the cell now.
This meeting is being recorded and are transcribed.
You allow
me a second to turn my computer off.
Have any back
Mr. Chair, this is Philip. I think you're going to have to turn your computer off. We're still getting that little
I
feedback.
muted Mr. Malone. I muted Mr. Malone on his computer, so if he's using his phone for audio, the feedback
Okay.
should have stopped.
Okay.
Can you hear us
All
now?
right, I'm back. I'm back. Can you hear me now? Am I playing?
Yes, sir.
We can hear you.
All right, I'm off of my computer. I'm on my phone, so no problem. Let's go ahead with the meeting. There was an objection raised by Mr. Maben as to whether the board had approved putting, Joseph, if you would repeat your objection, please.
I remember last time that I thought we had agreed to discuss the matter of placing the number of minorities and women on the scope assignment sheet at a later time. But I see in this week's papers that they were added there. And I don't know if this is the appropriate place to discuss it, but I think it's very misleading and doesn't help us in terms of an appeal because it's not an accurate. At some point, you have to measure capability in addition to a number of people that have been given that scope. So I don't know if my recollections are correct or not.
Okay, if they are part of the minutes, I don't see it. I don't recall it. So let's take it up under new business. That's okay with you, Mr. Maben?
Yes.
And then we can further discuss it. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, so this is Ed. So right now we're on approval of minutes, and what's happening is Joe is questioning the minutes as drafted, showing that the board wanted those the numbers of those firms listed on the scope sheets. So in essence, what I hear Mr. Maben saying is that he's actually got a motion to strike that from the minutes as not actually reflecting the last board meeting.
Yes. Is it reflected in the minutes?
Yes, Mr. Maben is saying it was not. It is in the minutes. It says the board requested that HRD list the actual number of available firms for each scope recommendation, as well as other available scopes on the estimated cost breakdown form. And
Okay.
Mr. Maben is saying that was not, that there was no motion approved by the board to do that it was merely discussed.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Mr. Soignier, Mr. Maben. Thanks to both of you. Unfortunately, I don't have a copy of last month's minutes.
So
that was.
Could I make a
Go ahead.
suggestion, a couple of suggestions in regards to these minutes then, that we amend that to say the board discussed HRD listing the actual number of those firms, but took no definitive action at that time.
So moved to amend the minutes to the recommendation by Mr. Desoignier from the minutes of last month's meeting.
Seconded.
It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
By name. By name.
Loman, aye.
Well, aye.
Desoignier, aye.
Perez, aye.
McGreevy, aye.
And since
Opposed? There's none opposed. The minutes are being amended.
yeah, and Mr.
As
Chairman,
spoken to.
since this is Ed, since we're still on those minutes, there's another item on there that said board requested monthly report of new MBE, WBE firms be sent prior to the next meeting. Could, I mean, just for, because I know we made a motion at the last board meeting to expand the minutes to include items that were discussed in addition to goals approved. But if we could get further refinement of the minutes to show what was discussed versus motions that were made and voted on, might help things a little bit more, might help refine our minutes moving forward.
Mr. Chairman.
HRD, yes, go ahead,
Mr. Chairman,
Philip.
yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, just to clarify Mr. DeSwannie's point, would it be helpful if we separate motion items versus discussion items? If, like, say in the minutes we had, hey, maybe the top part was where you all made actual affirmative motions on items and voted on that. And then underneath that, we have a category called discussion items where you just discuss topics. Would that be helpful?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we'll separate that, but in terms of the other details that's in the minutes, or that, because this is the first time we've come back to try to, add those talking points that you guys requested in the last meeting. So does the minutes somewhat reflect what you anticipated in these minutes now in terms of the level of detail that you're looking for?
Yes, and Philip, will you see to it that I get a copy of those minutes? I'm going through everything that I have, and I don't see a copy of last month's minutes.
I would check with staff, but I'm pretty sure they emailed those out on multiple occasions. It would have come from Itzel in her emails to you. So I'm pretty sure she emailed those out, because I know the other board members have it, so I'm pretty sure she emailed those out to you. But we'll go back through that again. But in terms of the contents of the minutes, is this what you all was looking for?
I think so.
Yes. I have one more comment, though.
Did you get the fairness? Sorry.
Hey, what's up? I was just listening to that. I just was listening to the fairness board just to kind of get an idea of what goes on during those. It's a hot mess. I mean, everyone's talking over each other and like.
Okay, someone is on the phone and your mic is loud, is hot, and the board can hear your comments. So we'd appreciate if you're not speaking to the board to please mute your phone. Okay, I'm not sure.
Point,
Mr. Chairman,
at this point, only fairness board members and HRD should be speaking at this time. Everyone else, if you would mute your phones, please. Go ahead, Philip.
No, sir. I was just going. I think Mr. Maven had a comment or something, a question, and so I was just going to let you know that he still said he had some comments and questions.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Maven.
In the past, we would get a spreadsheet that would show us what jobs turned in CUPs, so we could identify the general contractor and the minority and women contractors who they were using to meet their goals, in addition to a listing of all newly certified companies and recertified companies in the various scopes that are in WBE. And what we received this time doesn't cover all that. Philip, can we go back to that spreadsheet we used to receive?
Yes, we'll make that happen between now and the next board meeting.
And the reason that's so important, it helps us gauge capability by the contractors who are successfully taking this work.
That would help us in our evaluations.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So, Philip, you will make sure that happens. All right.
Yes.
I'll look for a approval of the minutes as they have been amended.
So moved as amended.
Second.
It's been moved to accept the minutes as amended by Mr. DeSwanier and second by Mr. Perez. All in favor by name.
Loman, aye.
Deswanier,
Greenwell,
aye.
aye.
McGreevy, aye.
Perez, aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. All right, at this point, we're going to move on to item number 2, review of the recommended projects for today. I'll turn this session over to HRD for the review of the project.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The first project that we have is a Public Works Department project. The estimated value of the project of cost is $1 million. Is for citywide protected bike lane installation. The project number is 890-23015. The department had recommended a goal of 15 and 8. HRD has reviewed it and recommended a goal of 15 and 8. I believe there's someone from Public Works here to discuss this project.
Chad Thompson with Public Works. This is a project that the city manager has requested Public Works begin the process of getting goals for construction. They are looking at the possibility of installing additional bike lanes on arterials and collectors throughout the city. With that, we have taken through a series of design goals through the HRD staff already, and we are putting together what is, we are told, a potential $1 million program from the city manager to try to do goals. We looked at a breakdown of how that $1 million would go towards those projects. And identified the pavement marking removal and the traffic control as potential items that could be used in the MBE and WBE goal assertion, with the use of striping, delineators, traffic control, and signage and pavement removal as kind of the main items in this contract. If you have other questions, we'll answer those as we go forward.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
HRD.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Swanjay.
On the cover sheet, it is not indicated whether this project is to be a prevailing wage project.
It will be a prevailing wage project.
Okay. So the form will be changed to reflect that.
We can do that.
Correct. Okay, thank you. The other thing is, Chad, what you all are doing is not necessarily building new lanes as much as you're taking what exists out there within the traffic way and just kind of reassigning it between bicycles and motorized vehicles, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And this is just putting down the safety striping, delineators, and signage to do that.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Philip, are you doing the projects for today?
Yes, sir. I'm ready, Mr. Chairman. So as Mr. Thomas indicated there, we both recommended goals of 15 and 8. We found availability in pavement markings, striping installation, linear installation, traffic control, as well as signage installation. So we have good availability throughout the project, and we comfortable with the goals of 15 and 8. We did not have any historical data on this. This is the first time we've seen a project just isolated by itself for bike lane delineation, as Chad had talked about. Normally, this would come in an overall street improvement that where the bike lanes would be designated going forward. But since this is taking existing streets and then designate them as bike lane, there was no historical data on projects of this similar nature at least. So as Mr. Deswanier indicated, it will be prevailing wage job. So that will be covered going forward in the payment marking. So we're comfortable with the recommendation of 15 and 8.
Are there any questions from the board?
Mr. Chair, this is Bob Lohman.
Yes, Mr. Lohman.
I have a question for HRD.
Okay.
My question is, I thought that we don't assign scopes of work when there's only one contractor eligible, and you've indicated pavement marking removal for the only one minority business enterprise that does that work.
Right. So this is a swing scope, Mr. Lohman, in which they could obtain availability either on the MBE side or the WBE side. So both of those would be swing scopes between the traffic control and the pavement marking. So in our looking at this here, we had 3 firms available in that area for pavement marking, not just an M or W, but when you look at them in totality, there were 3 firms available. So I see that we did reference the 150 on the pavement marking side for MBE, but as you know, this is just an exercise in showing that we do have availability throughout the project. So if they chose, the prime contractor chose to get a WBE to perform that scope of work, that would still be availability available for them.
I understand, but I thought that, again, we choose not to identify only a single contractor as being a scope of work that's acceptable to be accredited. So if it's a swing scope, it should have gone to the women, which have 2 available, versus the minority. And so are we changing our attitude that because there are 3 total, that we can choose which one? Doesn't make sense to me.
Right. I wouldn't say we're changing our attitude. I think what we're trying to show here, and maybe I didn't correctly articulate it, I think what we're trying to show here is that there are at least 3 firms in this particular line item that a contractor can choose from. And whoever they select, we're just trying to show that, and I guess in our analogy, we could have placed it on the WBE side since they have at least 2 firms in that area. But we were on the mindset that if there's at least 1 or more in that particular line item, M and W, we would be meeting the requirements of what you all have asked for, that there's at least one or more firms in that area. At least 2 or more, I would say, not just 1, but 2 or more.
Well, but my understanding, Philip, was that it had to be 2 or more that were either a minority business enterprise or a woman business enterprise before we'd identify that as an available scope for that sector of business. Well,
let's clarify that, because again, we were looking at it. Okay, so pavement marking, I have 3 firms in that line item. And if I'm hearing you correctly, Mr. Lohman, you're saying, okay, even though there are 3, but we only have 1 MBE and 2 WBEs, we don't have 3 firms, we only have 2 firms. Is that kind of what you're alluding to there?
I'm saying you've identified 1 firm on the minority side as being the target for minority participation, and we don't assign participation if there's only 1 firm available. Now, had you selected WBE for that scope of work, then I don't see that there would have been an issue. Because if you have it this way, and the contractor in fact gets a WBE to do that scope of work and doesn't have any MBE participation, you will say that they're out of compliance, despite the fact that right now you're saying it's a swing scope. So that doesn't hold water in my mind in terms of setting a goal. Had you perhaps selected signage installation as a minority scope of work, that probably sits better.
Right. I understand your point, Mr. Lohman. Again, these are just areas that we've identified availability in, and obviously we're not going to tell the contractor where to get utilization at, because we show that, as you just indicated, there's availability in signage where there are at least 2 MBEs. There's availability in striping where there's at least 2 MBEs as well. So, but I see your point that it would probably be more feasible to assign it to MBE to signage installations versus pavement marking removal. So if you want to, do you want us to change that as we speak here on the with the review of this project?
Well, we could always, we could change that.
Bob, let's have some other board members also chime in.
Yep.
And let's see how does the rest of the board feel? Anyone else want to chime in?
Mr. Chairman, this is DeSwani. I think I agree with what Bob is saying. I think it's messy. I understand what the department is attempting to do, but it's messy, and it's in opposition with policies that we've had in terms of how we list these availability numbers. And I think it would be much cleaner and straightforward to just say, okay, for purposes of this discussion, we're going to have signage installation of 130,000 assigned to WBE, and it changes and remove pavement marking altogether, and change these goals to 13 and 8 to reflect those revised numbers.
Ed, you would mean that would be $130,000 to MBE. You said WBE, but you meant MB, didn't you? As opposed to
MBE, yes. Yeah. At a minimum, because I think ultimately at the end of the day, you can, I mean, they could probably pick up traffic control, or it's just this project is just rife for subcontracting to minority and female-owned firms. But I think for purposes of our exercise, I agree with Bob to go ahead and have just one company with 150,000 for pavement marking is just, it's messy.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
anyone else? Yes.
This is Gabe.
Go ahead, Gabe.
I understand what everybody's saying, and I appreciate it. And this is part of my concern with showing numbers of firm availability. And I'll tell you why.
Yes.
Because I follow along. I'm on the city's website in their directory right now. And for example, they have 10 firms under signage, and 10 firms have 11 different NACE codes or certifications. So the idea of showing 2 available or 8 available or 3 available gets us confused as to what those numbers really mean. Are they actually fabricators? Are they fabricating and installing? All these firms have different capabilities. So I would just caution us to be careful when we identify 2 WB and 1 MB. The companies undoubtedly are not equivalent. Some may be able to perform more than others, or certified in areas that the others aren't. But in a line item, it just appears 1 and 2 or 2 and 8. And unless you look at the directory and go down their NACE codes, you don't know exactly what those firms are capable of doing and how they would be counted.
Thank you, Gabe. And I think that's probably, go ahead, Joe, because you had spoken the same thing. So go ahead, Mr. Nathan.
Well, I'd like to thank Bob and Ed both for making my point. And I agree with Bob's assessment. But it's also a fact that one minority company that has availability could get the work too. And I'm sure a general contractor will send out requests for bids to both that one minority and the 3 WBs. But Bob's point is right. We've always been careful there.
And it's well taken, because we don't want this, and we don't want to be accused of set-aside. And when you put that as the only company that you could use, then that's considered a set-aside. And so we don't want that. That's further reason why we want to remove those. And as we saw what Gabe went back and was able to identify through the directory, and that's what we want the contractors to do, or either call in to HRD to get further directions.
Or
So
contact
Philip,
the
you see,
contractors.
yeah, you see the reasoning, Philip?
I see, I understand what the board is asking and what you all are requesting. So, again,
Okay,
we're refined.
Go ahead, but be on the safe side while you're still talking. Be on the safe side to redo your numbers, if you would please, and reflect that under item number signage for your 130,000, which was slightly changed your goals there.
I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Mr. Swanier had referenced that change to be made on the documents. I don't know if that needs a motion or not, Mr. Chair, but we would reflect it on our end.
Okay, Mr. DeSwanier, you want to put that out for a motion to change?
You muted.
Ed, you're muted.
I muted.
No, Mr. Swanier is.
Ed, if you'd unmute.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm sorry. Yes, so I would move that we remove the $150,000 on the worksheet assigned for MBE under pavement marking removal and replace it with 130,000 signage installation for MBE and revise the goals accordingly to 13 MBE and 8% WBE.
I'd second that motion.
It's been moved and second to change the motion of the goal under item number pavement marking to reflect signage installation. Dollar amount changes from 150 to 130. Changes the percentage for this particular project to 13 and 8. All in favor?
DeSwanier, aye.
Maven, aye.
Loman, aye.
McGreevy, aye.
Greenwell, aye.
I have 5 ayes. I didn't hear you, Gabe, if you're approving or if not. All opposed?
I'm an aye.
Thank you. All opposed? There's none to oppose, so 6 ayes have it. It has been changed to 13 and 8. Okay, and we'll make a motion to approve the goals for the project. That was to change the goals. So can I get a motion to approve the project to 13 and 8?
Mr. Chairman, this is Bob Lohman. I'd like to move that we accept HRD's goals of 13 and 8 for the project.
Second.
It's been moved. It's been moved by Mr. Lohman and second by Mr. DeSwanier to accept the goals of 13 and 8. All in favor?
Lohman, aye.
By name. 3.
DeSwanier, aye.
McGreevy, aye.
Greenwell, aye.
Maven, aye.
There's 6 ayes, 6 board members. Opposed? None left to oppose. Ayes have it. The project has been accepted at 13 and 8. Approved at 13 and 8. Next project, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the next project is from the Water Service Department. It is the estimated cost of $759,500. It's water main replacement along Gregory Boulevard from Ward Parkway to Warnell Road. Project number is 80002291. The department had recommended a goal of 11 and 7. HRD has reviewed it and recommended a goal of 9 and 7. I believe there's someone, Mr. Macklin from the Water Service Department here to present the project.
This is Melanie Jollett from Water Services. I think Davis, our project manager, is also on the phone on the call if we need to ask him additional questions. But basically, this is a water main replacement that we identified because we've seen a lot of breaks on it recently in the past year. It's on Gregory between Ward Parkway and Warnell Boulevard. So we're trying to expedite our design on this so we can get this main replaced just because of the large number of breaks we've seen on it recently. It wasn't included in our original water main replacement program, but the projects that we identified for fiscal year 21, but it's an additional project that we're assigning to that. So we've looked at the goals, the same skills that we have on most of our water main replacement projects. So for like seeding and sodding, we see activity there for MBE, WBE, concrete, as well as the pre-construction photos and construction staking. So that's what we've identified as opportunities. And if there's any questions, we can take those also.
Thank you. Philip, you can give us your analysis.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. This project here, we had availability and about a majority of the scopes, at least from construction staking to traffic control, trucking, which is one of those swing scopes, along with the concrete placement and as well as the asphalt, also availability in sodding and seeding. Historical data, we identified several projects. One project was WSD 9163 water main replacement, North Kansas City, North Cypress. The prime contractor was Leith & Son. The contract value is $1.8 million. The goals were set at 10 and 6, and the contractor achieved 10.5 and 10.3. Utilization in hauling, trucking, she digs it, WBE contract and utility sewer water main. Another project was WSD 9206, Glen Arbor Terrace, Virginia Avenue. The prime was an MBE Blue Nile contracting. They self-performed majority of the work. The contract value is $1.1 million. The goals were set at 10 and 6. They achieved 43.6 on the M side and 7.6 on the W side. Again, trucking and hauling. Another project we received was WSD 9173. It was a water main replacement from Winchester to Hardy, East Truman Road to 40th Terrace. The prime was Rodriguez Mechanical. The contract value was $2 million. The goals were set at 10 and 6. They achieved 12.1 and 6.8. Utilization in MBE and trucking and hauling concrete work. Also WB utilization in concrete work and also in trucking and hauling. This is a prevailing wage job. Like I said, Department of Work recommended 11 and 7, and we reviewed and recommended 9 and 7.
Thank you.
Philip, I was going to say, I have a question. This is Kara McGreevy.
Sure.
On trucking, you have $15,000 total contract, and you have $15,000 going to an MBE and $15,000 going to a WBE.
Right.
So mathematically,
that doesn't add up. Right. So that should be just either, I believe they 15 is 70, that's 65, 70. So to get to the 70,000 on the MBE side, it would need to remain on the WBE side, but that looks like it's going to reduce the WBE 20, 35, 40, 41. That's going to reduce the WBE side. So there's availability for WBE in record drawing that we could get additional participations available there. I understand what you're saying. The spreadsheet does not add up to the 70,000 for MBE and for the 56,000 for the WBE, and we didn't catch that. So since there's availability in some of these other scopes, I'm fairly comfortable that the prime contractors could get it in some other area.
The asphalt pavement, the department has assessed 55 of the 110, but WBEs are strong in asphalt. You could get 110 easily.
Right. So I think when staff looked at that, that would probably have put them over the, it would have been a large amount of that overall value of the project, which probably would have been closer to, at that point, closer to about 12 or 13%.
So
Philip, if you've taken the 15,000 off of trucking on the MBE side, can't that just be moved down to the asphalt pavement?
Well, asphalt pavement is the estimated value for asphalt pavement right now is 110,000. So 110,000 of that 750,000 would have been. Let me pull my calculator up right quick here.
It's 14%, Philip.
14. Thank you, sir. It would have been 14%. So that would have been exceeding both the recommendation for that department made as well as what HRD is making. And again, it would be splitting the scope up between perhaps the prime and some of the subcontractors. And as you know, one of the I think one of your preferences is that we try to give entire scopes to either M or W. So I think that was one of the areas that we took that in consideration as why we did not recommend the asphalt pavement. But obviously it's available there. We do have strong availability there.
So, but for purposes of this document though, okay, and us approving a goal, understanding all the availability that exists here, we still need to assign trucking either to MBE or WBE. And if we remove it from WBE, which would drop the percentage down, I think closer to 5%, okay, you could replace it with record drawings and maybe start bumping it up closer to 6.5%. And then we can just round it off at the 9 and 7 and yet have the document make more sense than it does right now. As Ms. McGreevy pointed out, you can't have trucking
on both sides.
Yeah.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, this is Bob Lohman.
Go ahead, Bob.
In response to Ed's comment, I'm not sure that the general contractor would subcontract record drawings. That's their as-built. That, they would be accountable to that. That's typically not something the contractor is going to sub out. I know it's only $5,000, but I'm not sure that's really a good category to assign to any subcontractor, whether it's a minority or women business enterprise, period. So I understand what you're saying, that there's availability, but I'm not sure that's a correct line either.
I understand, and you're correct too. But still, when I look at the project and the length of the project, again, I can very easily see where the general contractor under asphalt pavement could sub out $15,000 worth of that asphalt. Surely he could find that amount somewhere in between Warnell and Ward Parkway and Holmes. That's quite a distance. So I'm sure that he could break out $15,000 worth of asphalt. Yes, I know we typically do not like to break up scopes, but in this instance, I think it would be an easier solution to be able to come to the same goal that is very doable.
Yeah, because ultimately,
what do you
at the end
think,
of the
Board?
day, I think that 9 and 7 is a reasonable set of goals. In fact, not just reasonable, but probably can be well exceeded by the general, especially when you start looking at the 60% credit for buying any pipe materials. So,
yes,
there's potential there.
What would 60% of that 180,000 be? We're somewhere around 100.
It's 108,000.
Yeah.
108. Aren't there plenty of minorities out there in pipe material supplying?
Well, there are not plenty, Mr. Maven. I'm sorry, Mr. Malone. But right now we show we have 4 M's and 4 W's on that side. So if that was the case, that would be at 4. If they went with the pipe material supplier, that would move the goals to 14% on either side. So again, that would be exceeding what we have normally recommended for water main replacement, 14% for either side. So our recommendation would probably be is to follow Mr. Soignier's, or your point of view, at least to look at a portion of that asphalt payment to try to make up the difference on the WBE side.
To me, that would make more sense because you're not going to pour that continuously. It would be different if the contractor was pouring that continuously. But that's very easily broken up where he could break off $15,000 and we would move that trucking from there to asphalt pavement. No, it's not what we typically do, but I think this could be taken as an exception.
I would make that motion.
Thank you.
I would second that motion.
It's been moved and second to move the go from trucking on the MBE side to $15,000 of the asphalt pavement on the MBE side, thus giving us the same goal. All in favor?
Aye.
DeSoignier, aye.
Greenwell, aye.
McGreevy, aye.
Lohman, aye.
Perez, aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The recommended goal for the asphalt pavement is changed to $15,000 on the MBE side, giving us the same goal at 9 and 7. Can I get a motion? There's a motion on the floor to approve the project at 9 and 7.
So moved.
This is Bob Lohman. I would so move that.
It's been moved by Bob and second by who?
DeSoignier, second.
Second by Mr. DeSoignier. All in favor? By name.
Lohman, aye.
Pavement, aye.
Greenwell, aye.
DeSoignier, aye.
McGreevy, aye.
Perez, aye.
Okay, I have 6. Nays? Ayes have it. We have one more. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. We're going to move on to our last project for today, the citywide LED lights. Back over to HRD.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, this project came to us early part of the week, and so I believe you may have just received this either Tuesday or yesterday. And this is a project from the city manager's office that we got. The estimated cost of the project is $55 million. It is for citywide LED street light conversion. The project number is 890-7635. The contractor, the description of the work is contractor supply install 91,000 LED luminary throughout the city. The work will involve removing the existing street lights and installing new LED lights. There will be, it says there will be option to provide and install network outdoor lighting system. So there's a option in the project to install smart city equipment, environmental sensors, Wi-Fi access points, and cameras on those lights as well. The department and city manager's office had recommended a goal of 15 and 13. I believe Mr. Mahmood from the Public Works Department is here to discuss the project.
Yes, good morning. And I have Tram Fenimore, who is our project manager on this job on the Public Works Department. This is a project, as Philip indicated, that was directed to us by the city manager's office, trying to change and convert all the streetlights in Kansas City, Missouri to LEDs to generate some energy and maintenance savings overall. We have been converting some of the lights already through some different funding method, about 7,000 of them, and 91,000 remaining is what we are planning to do as part of this project. This is this is the kind of work that we do in our maintenance contract currently, basically just changing out the fixture. We already have approved fixtures by different manufacturers. So that is part of the scope and the specification that we're going to put out for the contractor to purchase those and put them up and convert them. So with that, if you have any questions, either myself or Tram would be able to answer that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Am I mistaken? At one point in time, weren't the city's lights like owned by KCPL at the time?
That is correct. Back in 1997, all the lights were, most of the lights, I wouldn't say all the lights, most of the lights were owned by KCPNL and Missouri Public Service Company. The city purchased both lighting system from the utilities. Of course, the utilities since have merged. Now there is no KCPNL and Missouri Public, it's all Evergy. So Evergy is now the utility company, but the city owns all the street lighting systems.
Okay. Was that a good idea or not a good idea? You don't have to answer that. You don't have to answer it. All right. Thank you. Well, just actually one real question, one last real question. What's the length of time of this contract?
We are looking at 48 months to complete this project.
48?
48 months, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Philip?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as Mr. Mahmood had indicated, we have a citywide maintenance contract in which it's the only comparison that we have in terms of historical data. We don't have a contract of this magnitude that had been separated in the city. So when we looked at the current citywide street traffic and maintenance contract that's in place now, the estimated value of that is $39 million. The goals were set at 15 and 10, and they are currently achieving 22 and 12. Participation in electrical supply, street lighting, inspection. The prime is a contractor by the name of Black & McDonald, and they currently have the overall maintenance contract in place now. In terms of the availability, definitely we looked at the availability in the supply as well as installation. We believe that this will be a contract in which the contractor could separate certain quadrants or certain areas of the city that could award specifically to minorities or women-owned electrical firms to provide the service and to purchase and install those services on those particular street lights. That way they would get 100% credit if they purchase and install. We have some electrical contractors that are currently participating in this area now on the maintenance contract. You have Brandy Electric, you have Fields Electric, you have Whatever It Takes Electric, you have Alpha Energy and Electric, which is some of the M and WBE firms that are currently on the maintenance, Max as well as Max Electric, which are currently on the current citywide streetlight maintenance contract now that are participating with Black. So like I said, we thought that this would be an area where they could segment the work in quadrants or streets or sides or areas or something like that, and they would be able to achieve participation. In those other but in those other areas which are optional right now, I know that they're included in the cost. I'm not sure. We do have availability in those areas in terms of suppliers that could supply and install the outdoor light, the smart city equipment, environmental sensors, Wi-Fi access points and cameras. ETIs or WBE that specialize in Wi-Fi accessibilities and cameras. They've done some from some of the Parks Department. They're doing a lot of this work at the airport as well. So again, we see availability and throughout the project, with availability and participation, if the prime contract decided to allow the M&WBEs to purchase and install the equipment and materials. So our recommendation is concurring with the 15 and 13.
Thank you, Philip. Board questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have
if there are no questions,
No.
Sure,
Mr.
go right
Chairman,
ahead.
I have a question for Mr. Yelder. So, there is like this minuscule difference between the amounts of money we've got, you all have got assigned to MBEs versus WBEs. Do you see a problem if we had 15 and 15 on this 4-year project?
No, sir. Given the volume of work that's involved here, I think it will be easy to achieve.
Yeah.
I mean, because like I said, right now, the goals are 15 and 10. They already on current, the only project we can somewhat reference is the one they own now. They're already at 22 and 12. So I don't think it would be a far stretch for 3% more on a project that's 3 times the size of where it started.
Okay.
And electrical on the WB side, they're very strong. So.
Mr. DeSoignier, would you like to make a recommendation?
Yes, I do.
Whoa. I have a question still.
Come right on.
We can discuss it if my motion gets a second.
That's right. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Bob.
Mr. DeSaulnier is living in a higher bracket than I am. Over $1 million is minuscule.
I have a question.
We didn't all come that way.
It's 250,000 a year.
Yes, sir.
Divide by 4.
You're Bob.
Mr.
Bob, you have
Mahmood,
it.
Yes, sir.
The LED luminaries that are purchased, are those specialty products or are those readily available?
No, they're readily available now. We do have the performance specification, which we have used to approve a list of the approved. We have a list of the approved vendors that have met our performance specifications. So they're out there readily available, but they have to meet our performance specification in order to participate.
Okay, and there are minority and women business suppliers that meet your performance?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, can I now make a motion?
Please.
I would move to approve goals of 15 and 15 for project number 89007635.
Greenwell, second.
It's been moved and second to change the project goals on the project. Mr. DeSoignier just stated the 15 and 15. All in favor by name.
Loman, aye.
Greenwell, aye.
Pavement, aye.
McGreevy, aye.
DeSoignier, aye.
Perez, aye.
We have 6 ayes. All in favor, opposed? No opposed. The project has been changed to 15 and 15. Now we'll move to accept the project. Project goals have been changed. Now that they've been changed, I'll entertain a motion to approve the project at 15 and 15.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Been moved and second to accept the project at 15 and 15, and all in favor?
Loman, aye.
DeSoignier, aye.
Greenwell, aye.
McGreevy, aye.
Perez, aye.
6 ayes. Ayes have it. All opposed? There's none left to oppose. The project has been changed and accepted at 15 and 15.
Thank you.
That concludes the projects for today. We're going to move on into agenda item number 3, other business.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, just wanted to bring to the board's attention that the appeal hearing today is at 2 p.m. I know links have been sent out for the meeting. I would encourage everyone to test it to make sure they have access. And if you don't, please call me or Kim and let us know. I think you probably have already done that, but if you haven't, let me know. We're using it will be a Zoom meeting. I believe everyone has copies of the material, both from the HRD staff as well as from the contractor and their attorney that will be on the appeal hearing. So are there any questions regarding the appeal hearing, anything that you that we could try to do between now and 2 to answer those questions, or in terms of the materials or anything of that nature? Okay, I don't hear any, so I guess we're good in that regard. Next, I think it shows on your report that the next meeting was February 11th, but should be March 11th, March 11th at 10:30.
Mine shows March 11th.
Okay, all right, I got it wrong set. Okay, so yeah, so March 11th is the next meeting date. So in terms of this issue regarding the availability on the report, so is the board consensus that we should remove that going forward? I know you all had some discussion about it. So we just need to know which one you would like. I know it came up at the last meeting when there was some discussion, I believe from Ms. Sonia about that. So in clarification, is it something that you all would like to have removed going forward? And then we could just not make sure it's not part of the next set of projects that you receive.
I think that's a concurrence of the board, Philip. It was never approved to have those on there. It would be too misleading, and I don't think it would be good for the contractors if it falls into their hands to fill. This is the way that we select contractors. So since it was never approved by the board to be put on there, if you would just remove those, is that the concurrence of the board?
Yes.
Yes.
That's good.
Okay, we'll take them off going forward.
Thank you.
All right.
Is there any other business?
Hey, Mr.
There's
Chairman.
no other business.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Ed.
I noticed that our appeal hearing is going to be on Zoom as opposed to Microsoft Teams.
Right. So that's why I was making the comment that have you all checked the link to make sure you have access?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe that'll help you out, Mr. Chairman, in terms of connectivity.
Well, I hope so, because typically I use Zoom. So I'll tune in early to make sure, but I haven't had any problem with Zoom in the past. So I will look forward to it. Again, I'll tune in early.
And once again, members of the board, I would just ask that you would please just, try that link to make sure it's working before 2 o'clock, so that if we have any problems, we can try to correct those and debug that prior to the meeting, and everybody can be a part of the discussion.
Thank you.
Right.
And Philip, this is Kim.
Mr. Chairman, I have my
Go ahead,
hand
Kim.
raised.
I was just going to
Was that
say
you,
you can
Kim?
get on. I was going to say you can log on 1 hour before the meeting starts if you want to test your connection. It should be open 1
Okay.
hour. So at 1 o'clock, you can start testing.
I'll do it.
Don,
I will
you'll
do it.
do it, right?
Dialing in, and I hope there's no problem there.
No, sir, Mr. Maven, I did check on that, and as long as you can dial in, you can have the number and the code and access code, you shouldn't have a problem dialing in.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have my hand raised. I have a question.
Yes.
Okay,
right
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Mr. Gabe, I know you're on the phone, and that's fine. I don't mean to interrupt you, Mr. Malone, but you haven't gotten into your public discussion yet. I know that's probably next on your agenda. So once you conclude that, then we go into the public discussion, and you can invite folks from the public to comment.
Okay, go right ahead, Gabe.
Should I go ahead with my question?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, my name is Gabriel Okafor. I'm the president of Alpha Energy and Electric, located in the urban core, and I'm also an MBE contractor. I was lucky to be involved in a project that just bidded about 2 weeks ago. It's a project number 8002134-9569. and it's titled Secondary Switchgear Improvements at the Water Treatment Plant. Now, that project had an engineer's estimate of $11.9 million. And so you could understand how I was terribly surprised when I found out that it only had 3% MBE goal. And my question is kind of general question to the board is for businesses like ours who depend primarily on city contracts to sustain and grow, how is it possible for a project of this size and importance for us to only have 3% MBE?
Philip, do you want to address that from the HRD point? I don't have the project in front of me.
Yeah, yes, sir. And I don't have it either. I know it was a switchgear project. I believe the large majority of this project was in equipment. And I cannot remember the name of the type of equipment. I think it's something start with SCD, some scanner equipment or something of that nature. And so the way the process worked, Mr. Okafor, is that, you know, the departments and HRD both make a recommendation to the board. As you have participated in this discussion, has probably been on the phone today, they go through each line item and look where there's availability for both M and W. I believe the recommendation initially was like 6 and 4, something of that nature, and the board, I believe, recommended 3 and 3 for M and WBE. But the analysis and the recommendation was based on availability and what the board looked at in terms of areas that minorities and women-owned firms could participate. That is my overall view of what took place. I believe the board, if there's something different that I missed, you know, you can explain it better, but I don't see it. That's how it was explained to the board. That is how it was presented to the board, and that was the recommendation coming from the board.
I recollect exactly as Philip presented.
Mr. Okafor, are you able to bid on the project as a prime?
It's one of those kind of series of unfortunate events. My staff, who was supposed to attend the pre-bid meeting, had a COVID event and couldn't make it. And so we weren't able to attend the pre-bid meeting, which was mandatory. So I could not bid as a prime contractor. I would have loved to and was capable of bidding that job as a prime contractor.
Did you bid it as a sub?
I did bid it, and luckily I was part of the team that might be winning the job.
Okay.
And sir, this is Ed DeSoignier with the Heavy Constructors. Let me just tell you from my individual perspective, serving on this board, as Mr. Yelder pointed out, we make every effort going through the project to try to identify what can be identified as subcontracting for either MBE or WBE firms, and doing so in a way that we believe makes sense for bidders on a project, so that the numbers that we recommend to the city council for approval are realistic from a construction point of view. The other thing I would point out is that I don't believe a 3 and 3 goal is viewed as a ceiling necessarily, as much as it is a base to build on. That if the general contractor or the low bidder on a project can exceed those numbers, they are certainly encouraged to do so. So our numbers really become almost starting numbers for those prime contractors. So I just want to let you know my own individual thoughts on this.
I understand, and I think my goal here was to kind of bring attention to some of the issues that are being talked about in the minority contracting community in terms of providing minority contractors, both MBE and WBEs, opportunity to sustain and grow. That's my goal, and I like the idea of looking at the goals as a base as opposed to a ceiling. And I think one of the things that maybe Philip and the city could do in the future is find a way to provide some incentives for big businesses, big construction companies, incentives for them to go above and beyond that base. I think that would be a good thing, because if they had an incentive, they would do more than just the base. And I think that would be a really good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. You might make a recommendation to the city council as well. Okay. Anybody else for public comments?
Mr. Malone, Mr. Chairman, there's a lady that has a hand up, Christina Gunner. She has a hand up. I'm not sure if she's still on, but she has a hand up in the conversation box.
Since I'm on the phone, Philip, if you would point those out to me.
Sure. That's the only one I see so far, Mr. Chairman, is Christina Gunner. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Did you still want to speak or have a public comment?
Yeah, I had a question. Is it possible to have the agenda and the breakdown packets put on the city clerk's website so we can see what you guys are seeing as we're going through these meetings? Because we can only see the agenda from the city clerk's website. It would be nice to see all the breakdowns and how you guys are analyzing these projects.
I know we can post the agenda. I need to speak with our legal team to see if the projects and cost breakdown can be posted prior to the board meeting and prior to the board making their recommendation. I know after the meeting, those items are made available, but I think there may be some legal challenge we have in terms of posting this prior to the board concluding in terms of what that looks like. So if you would, I'll reach out to our legal team and I'll reach out to you individually and let you know what their recommillication is.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
This is Dustin.
Hey, Philip, I'll just tell you, I don't know about the rest of the board members, but that discussion with legal in terms of if that information is made public, I think we would certainly want to be a part of that discussion and hear from city legal on that.
Is Dustin on?
Yeah, I was talking and I think I was talking over somebody, but I can look into it. And I'm happy to share the information to the board.
So based on what I'm hearing you say, Mr. DeSwanier, before we make a decision on that, we will bring that back to the board.
I think, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Because
and
the question I've got in my mind is the whole issue of work, what is considered to be a work product. Okay.
Yep.
So.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And there's something that really needs to be brought into consideration as well, and that's I call it a disclaimer, and it may not be, but it's a notice that's at the end of the projects that are broken down. And one of the reasons for that is if these fall into the hands of contractors and they feel this is the only place that they can get it, that's one of the reasons we have availability on there when we do choose, so that if it does fall into hands, that they know that there are other areas that are available and they have the ability to research themselves. And if they can't get to that point, they can call HRD and ask for help. And on that, it says in notice, the scope of work and dollar amounts listed on this MWBE contract goals request are being used for internal estimates only for the purpose of analyzing the availability and capacity of MWBEs and to set appropriate target goals. Nothing contained within this form should be used to limit, restrict, or mandate MWBE DBE participation in particular scopes of work for responding to the goal request, responding to the project that's being bid. So people need to understand that. So when this falls into their hands, they should be able to read what I call just a disclaimer.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions?
Excuse me.
Go ahead, Joseph.
And we had a job that was taken by a MBE. I think they achieved 40 something in 10. But the general public's not going to know that his self-performance, the 40% counted, and the 10% he got from a company in trucking owned by his wife. So
my goodness,
it's more than just looking at the numbers.
Yes. Yes. There needs to be a furtherance of the analysis.
Yeah. We always get complaints, I do personally, when we have jobs with big dollar amounts and low goal settings. But again, if it's specialized work, we've got the history of that work to evaluate also. It's just difficult to, just the size of the job doesn't really enter into our assessment. It's availability.
That's it. That's it. I know there are many other issues that are out there by you gentlemen who are representing contractors and so forth, and it's extremely important, that some of these issues be hashed out with the assistance of the Human Relations Department. It's not always conducive to be able to bring those up in these board meetings, but there certainly are issues that HRD should be able to help us to be able to get resolved within our contractors. And I say that because it had been brought to my light that there's some issues out there now where the contracting community definitely needs the help of the Human Relations Department. So I would just like to say to you, Joe, Gabe, and the rest of you guys that are out there representing contractors who are trying to eat on a day-to-day basis, that you remain engaged with HRD in helping to get these issues resolved, because it doesn't do our contractors any good to be listed on a project and perform and don't get paid. So I'm asking if there could be some assistance to some of the things that has been brought to my attention that I don't want to publicly bring out right now, but I think there are issues that should be some relief and help and direction as to which way to go from the Human Relations Department, particularly because of some of the additional agencies that has been brought in that comes under our governance. So with that being said, is there anything else that you'd like to bring before this body? If there's nothing else,
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Okay.
This is Gabe.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Gabe.
Yeah, and I would encourage this board to stay on top of current activities in the community, and maybe suggest that we meet in a special session at some point to go over some of the things you just mentioned. Because in my community, violations and abuse are rampant right now, and it doesn't look like it's getting any better until we get involved, or leaders in the community get involved. And you'll be hearing more about that. But also, Mr. Yelder, I have been trying to work my way through your directory, and I'm having a whole lot of trouble. I don't know if you're experiencing trouble on your end, but you're only listing 5 electrical contractors in town right now, and I know we got more than that. So, and I try to follow along in this directory to check availability as we talk, and I've had a whole lot of problems. Maybe it's the weather, who knows?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, that definitely does not sound right, because I know we have more than 5 active and certified firms, and as you and I on this phone, I'm trying to pull them up right now, because I see we have 49.
Okay. Yeah, I'm only
So
Anyway.
if you're in the search mode, and if you type in on the description electrical, when you go to the search mode, type in electrical, and it'll pull up the one that I have certified.
Yeah, I have. I've done it every which way you can. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that to your attention in case there was some glitch in it.
All right, I'll call you back, Gabe, and we'll walk through it one-on-one to make sure we're searching the correct way. Okay?
I've been on this plenty of times. I'm familiar with the software. It's just for some reason I'm only getting certain limit amount, and it's really, really slow. So, but it may be on my end.
Yeah, things seem to be a little bit slow too to see, but if you guys would coordinate that together. Okay, if there's nothing else before this body, this meeting is adjourned. Gabe, if you would give me a call, please, I would appreciate it.
All right.
See you all later.
See you guys at 2.
See you guys.
Bye.
See you at the next meeting. Bye now.
Bye now.
I'm out.